Greetings, Internet people. RantingRamsay here. How are you all doing today? I'm going to start off by letting you know, if you haven't already noticed by the time count on this video, it's probably going to be a long one, because the actual subject that I'm going to address that you're probably intrigued by the title, I will get into, and it's going to take me a minute when I actually start getting into that. But first I want to start off by mentioning a couple of things. Number one, as some of you have noticed, I am slowly creeping up on 1,000 subscribers. Now, I have an idea in my head what I want to do for a 1,000 subscriber video, but one of my watchers had suggested something else, so I put up one of those poll moderator things on my channel. So if you'd like to go to my channel and read the little blurb that I put there and then decide if you have any input, by all means, please do that. Now, I'm all about listening to the people that watch my videos. It seems kind of like a given to me. If people are going to watch me, I should listen to them, pay attention to what they say. Anyway, that's kind of, like I said, it's kind of a digression. So if you're not watching this video on my channel, I politely suggest that maybe you head over to my channel and check out the little poll question thing at the top and see if you have anything to contribute to that. So, moving on. I want to preface this by saying I generally, on the general average, I try to stay away from uber political topics. I love that word. I know it's kind of cliche at this point because it got used to death in the late 90s, early 2000s, but I love Uber. Anyway, wow, train of thought derailment. I'm sorry. Please give me a moment while I try to fix the massive tragedy of thoughts and ideas that has just screamed off the tracks in my brain, and now there's screaming people in my head. Wow, I should seriously see a doctor and think about getting on a pill for that. Anyway, what I think I was trying to say before my train of thought just totally fucking derailed. So I generally try to stay away from super political topics. On the most part, I try to rant about just kind of everyday shit. I kind of consider myself an everyman kind of thing, so generally I try to bitch about social behaviors that I see that I don't understand or question, or just general things on the average that make people just angry because they're fucked up, because this world is full of fucked up shit. But I could not help myself. This has actually been eating away at my brain for days. I'm not exaggerating. Days, maybe even weeks. And that's because lately it seems that by a certain demographic of the American public, the term socialism is being thrown around, in my opinion, way too rampantly. Now, before I get into this, I want to preface that I myself, I've said this before in a video, but some of you guys may not have watched that video, so I'm going to kind of rephrase some of the things that I've said in a previous video, that I myself am neither a Democrat nor a Republican. I am not a conservative or a liberal. I actually coined this phrase accidentally in a previous video, but I consider myself a consiberal. Some of the views that I hold about how society should govern and conduct itself are conservative, and some of the views that I hold about how society should conduct and govern itself are liberal. If you want one, I know a lot of the things that I say are generally very liberal, so if you're sitting here thinking to yourself, what the fuck, this guy holds no conservative views in line with the Republican Party whatsoever. Well, I will say that I do believe that the American people have the right to own firearms. I am all about Second Amendment rights, which is a very conservative viewpoint for anyone doubting me on that one, and I'm too damn lazy to go further into that. So, anyway, the point being basically of all that bullshit is that I don't really consider myself a Republican or a Democrat or conservative or a liberal. I'm a consiberal, which means that on the general average I'm split right down the middle on a lot of the public or the governmental rhetoric. And so I'm not really entirely sure why that seemed important to bring up. Wow, I'm doing really bad. Good thing I've got a shit ton of notes for this rant when I actually start getting into it. I told you this was going to be a long one. I knew this was coming. I knew my brain wasn't in the right place tonight. Anyway, as I'm sure you're all anxiously awaiting and hoping I just stop bullshitting about nothing, I'm getting to the fucking point. And lately, like I said, I'm going to reiterate, it seems like a lot of people seem to be throwing the term socialism out there. But due to the fact that the American public has proved time and time again, not only through statistics, but through actual action, that they're pretty fucking ignorant. And I don't think that most of the people who are throwing the whole socialist word around right now even know what it means or implies. I know what it means and implies, but it was kind of complicated for me, and I couldn't really water it down. So I did a little research, and I found a website that watered it down for me because I'll be honest, I searched socialism in a nutshell. Anyway, what it came for me, what I realized after 2 hours of reading various articles produced by that search, I basically came to the conclusion that socialism is three things. At its base, it is three things. Those three things are common ownership, democratic control, and production solely for use. I know you're freaking out because democratic control can't possibly be in line with socialism. It is. Sorry. Anyway, so let me explain these points to you. Common ownership means that the entire structure of a production and all natural resources be held in common by all people. This means that every person will stand in equal relationship with every other person with respect to the means of producing the things we need to live. That is, mines, industrial plants, manufacturing units, and all land forms. And that means and all means of transport and distribution. This also means the common ownership of all natural resources. What that basically means, in an even more watered down sense, is that in socialism, there is no individual land ownership. If the land that a group of people that are socialist occupies, whatever resources that land contains, belongs to everyone, and everyone is free to exploit them for the benefit of all. That is the first basic tenet of socialism. The second basic tenet of socialism is democratic control. Democratic control means that a social policy would be decided by communities. In place of rule by governments, public decisions would be made by people themselves. One great advantage of democratic practice in socialism would be not only the organization of decision-making, but all the freedom to carry out those decisions. The freedom of action would arise from direct control of community affairs and the enactment of common ownership and removal of the economic constraints of the capitalist system. Without powers of action, decision making is meaningless. So what that basically means is that instead of a large central government, individual communities that rely on each other would basically rely on each other and make decisions as a whole. Sink that in. Let that soak in for a minute. Third, production solely for use. Production solely for use means just what it says. People in socialism would be free to cooperate voluntarily with each other in producing goods directly for the needs of the community. Now, first, let me start, before I go into discussing these points, let me start by saying I am reading verbatim words from a website. I myself am not sitting here advocating socialism as a preferred form of government or anything like that. I am reading someone else's words. My own personal opinions are not being offered at this point. Please do not misconstrue that. But it's the internet, so it's probably going to happen anyway, especially with the title that I'm going to give this video. Moving on. So, the biggest thing we hear lately about socialism usually pertains to the distribution of wealth, or the redistribution of wealth. When you start talking about higher taxes for the rich and tax breaks for the middle class and lower class, is when people usually start screaming, "Socialism, you're trying to give my money to someone else, blah, 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 blah." You know what? We already have that. In America, today, we have that. It is called Medicare, Medicaid, welfare, Social Security. That is the definition of redistribution of wealth. All are programs that take the money of tax-paying citizens and redistributes it to other possibly tax-paying citizens. That is reality. That is fact. That is not opinion. We have redistribution of wealth today in the United States. So all of you fuckers screaming about the redistribution of wealth is going to ruin it. Oh my God, what are you doing to our country? You're fucking retarded. You're ignorant of the facts. The facts are we have redistribution of wealth currently in effect in the United States of America. What the fuck do you think the FICA deductions are from your paycheck? Nothing more than a basic form of redistribution of wealth, which is the socialism that everybody's screaming about when they don't understand what socialism actually is. You know what? That kind of leads me on to the next point. But first I want to point out that the redistribution, as I've just basically said, the redistribution of wealth does not equate to socialism in and of itself. Wrap your mind around that. It is fact. Okay. Now, you know what? Thinking about it, the Tea Party sounds like a socialist movement when taken in the context of number 2. They want less government. They want less taxes and the ability to govern themselves to a point. That is precisely what point number 2 is talking about. So all these Tea Party movement motherfuckers that are screaming about the socialist government, blah, 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 bullshit that's supposedly going on, don't realize that they themselves are advocating a form of socialism. Oh my God! So, can we please stop using the term socialism pertaining directly to the redistribution of wealth? Let's call it what it is. The fucking redistribution of wealth! That's what it is. Or sharing. Sharing. That's what it fucking is. Basically, at its core, it's sharing. We are all taught as children to share. If you have a toy and someone else wants to play with that toy, we are disciplined for not sharing as children. I guess it just shows that American and other adults are hypocrites of the highest degree. We demand that our children share. Don't eat in class unless you bring enough for everyone. That toy's not yours. You've been playing with it for 20 minutes. Let little Susie have a turn. At what point does this stop? Apparently, it stops at the age of 18 when you become technically an adult. Apparently, only children have to share. So, I mean, if you can't see the parallels at this point, I really don't know what to say to you. That supposedly this redistribution of wealth is nothing more than the basic sharing which we all discipline our children for not partaking in. At what point does this change? At what point does sharing stop being a good idea? Now, once again, please do not misunderstand. I am not advocating the redistribution of wealth. I am simply pointing out a hypocrisy in the people who want to cry fucking wolf about this bullshit. That's all I'm doing. I am not advocating higher taxes or lower taxes or anything. I'm not actually advocating anything. Please, get that through your head. What I am basically trying to say is that all these motherfuckers that cry socialism and point to the redistribution of wealth are some of possibly the most ignorant fucking people around right now, because they're not realizing that the system in which they live is doing exactly already what they're screaming about before our current president, before the president before him, before the president before him, before the president before... Do I need to fucking go on? I hope you fucking get it. I really do. Because this is something that is eating away at my fucking core. Educate yourselves. Fucking educate yourselves. I'm RantingRamsay. That is...
Hey, did you get all that, man?